In August 2002, ABC News was given unprecedented access to the New York Police Department.
Walking into the unknown, it's always fun.
For the next 16 months, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, a team of journalists accompanied the NYPD into unpredictable and dangerous situations.
Well, we got stabbed here, so we're trying to figure out who did it.
Lives are in the balance.
8 million people, 37,000 cops. NYPD 24/7.
I'm Dennis Franz. Here at NYPD Blue, we believe that New York City cops are a special breed, tough and compassionate. At least that's how I play Andy Sipowicz. But what we're about to show you in this True Life series from ABC News are the real cops, men and women who put their lives on the line every day. Tonight on NYPD 24/7, two college friends go partying. One ends up dead, and the other is charged with his murder. But Detective Ken Sylvia doesn't quite buy it.
Good morning. It's 26 degrees at 6 o'clock. I'm Lee Harris. Here's what's happening.
Police are still looking for clues in the fatal shooting of a bank early today. 25-year-old Burke O'Brien was talking to his former college roommate after a night out and was shot in the chest inside a Lower East Side building as he tried to unlock the building's front door.
Yeah, about 4:30 this morning, a male was shot in front of his friend's building, and he passed away as a result of his wounds.
How it happened and what he saw, where he saw it.
It's just after dawn, and detectives from Manhattan South Homicide catch a fresh case. A 25-year-old man has been shot to death after a night on the town with friends.
When they were leaving the club, they were all going to get in one cab, but they get split up. So two girls and the guy that lives in this apartment wind up in the cab, and the cab pulls away, leaving the victim and the friend left behind. So they have to flag down their own cab.
From what Sergeant Andy Dietz and his team can piece together, the victim appears to have been shot by one of his friends.
Sounds like a dispute, straight dispute. He was shot one time.
It's probably over a girl. We think the friend, based on what witness accounts, shot the other friend in the chest with a .45.
But the suspect's telling you something else.
Yes. He's basically saying it's a robbery, that a male black and a male Hispanic robbed him at gunpoint, just shot his friend in the chest. But we got an independent witness, a male black, that just happened to be walking down the block.
He was walking down the street, standing at the light. He sees two people standing over here, having a conversation of some sort. He can't tell if it's arguing. Yeah.
No one on the street but those two.
He sees the perp put his hand up. He hears a bang.
After he shoots him, he puts the victim's coat like over him to keep him warm, and he runs into the building to grab a phone.
At that point, the witness walks down the block to Ludlow, makes the 911 call from the payphone, the witness. After he makes the 911 call, he comes back over and kind of looks.
Witness hears a male white talking to the police, telling about how a male black and a male Hispanic robbed him at gunpoint and shot his friend in the chest.
And the guy's listening, and he taps another officer on the shoulder and goes, "That's not what happened." He goes, "I was standing here, I saw only two people on the street, there's no one else around."
Because listen, that guy's lying. I think he shot somebody.
The guy that shot him reached down, picked up a jacket and put it on him, and then went in the building.
So we're pretty certain we got the guy, but he's not budging on the story.
Where the gun went, there's no gun on the scene. It's either in the apartment, or maybe the guy took it and he got rid of the gun. That's where we're at right now.
The DA is very comfortable with this witness. He says, I'll go with him, just with him. He likes him, he'll probably just go with him, even if we have come up with nothing else. 9 times out of 10, we're going to have a witness of some type in the case, whether it's an eyewitness, an ear witness, somebody that saw the whole thing, saw part of a thing. But until I can corroborate certain things that they've said, then I'm going to be leery of them.
Relying on the eyewitness's account, police focused their investigation on this man, Forrest Blody, a college friend of the victim, Burke O'Brien.
I think when you hear somebody's killed...
Detective Ken Sylvia of the 7th Precinct has been assigned to work the case with homicide.
You can't help, especially with a homicide, you can't help but personalize this thing, I was at this guy's autopsy, and I look at this guy, and through the investigation, I find out who he is, I find out about his family, I speak to him, and he becomes known to me. He becomes known to me as a person. I've never known him in life. The first time me and him ever met, he's dead. He's a young guy. He has his whole life laid out ahead of him, traveled a lot. He did a lot for kids. He would go up to Canada and take people on canoe trip rides and stuff like that. And it seemed like he was getting into the point of his life where, okay, you know what, I had a lot of fun, I had a lot of, you know, traveling and experience, and now I need to sort of settle in and dive right into the real world and start making some money. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, something tragic happened.
Forrest Blody denies shooting his friend and claims Burke was actually shot by two men who were robbing them.
Somebody shot.
Detectives listened to the 911 call made by Blody moments after the shooting.
Burke, where you shot? Come on, Burke.
Is he awake now?
No, Burke, look at me, Burke. You need to wake up.
He's not awake.
Burke, no, he's not awake.
All right, so find out where he shot, put a clean, dry cloth with direct pressure there.
I don't know where he shot. Burke, come on, shot. No, he's not. Burke, he's shot.
Burke, calm yourself down and recheck if he's breathing.
I can't, I'm checking, but I can't tell if any gunshot wound. I don't know what it is.
You're not listening.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Now, what did I ask you?
Where's the gun?
No, I didn't. I'm past that. We're going back to breathing.
Yeah, he's breathing.
Yeah, okay. Now, you could go from head to toe and look and see if you see any blood anywhere.
That's what I'm looking for. I can't see it. All right, the cops, the police are here. All right, can I speak to the police now? Can I hang up?
Yeah, you could hang up. Sure.
The police are here. Oh, no.
Isn't it odd that he never once said that he was shot?
Male black. By somebody.
By somebody?
That's what I kept saying.
Yeah, he was robbed, something?
That's the first thing you're gonna do. He said my friend was shot. Male something, whatever.
Black guy, he ran
Not even giving that. You just say we were robbed. Somebody shot my friend. We were robbed. Somebody shot my friend.
Detectives find nothing in the 911 call to support Forrest Blody's claim that he and Burke were attacked by robbers. For now, they find the eyewitness extremely credible.
Obviously, Burke can't explain to us what happened. We have Forrest giving us one version of events, and now we have this guy, a witness, who's completely not attached to anybody there at the scene, telling us an entirely different set of events. Initially, he tells us that as he's walking towards the corner, he sees these two guys, and then he notices one guy raise up his arm, and a shot goes off. You know, you have to wonder what occurred.
It was getting late. We wanted to go home. You know, we split two cabs. You know, I was in one cab, he was in the one right behind me, you know.
Burke O'Brien's sister Rory arrived before her brother and had already gone inside by the time he was shot.
And we just sort of expected they'd be right behind us, you know. And that's when Forrest came like dashing in through the apartment door, screaming that he needed a phone. And Forrest kept saying he'd been shot, and I was taking off his, you know, t-shirt trying to see where, because I couldn't see it. There was no blood, there was no hole even that I could find in any of his clothes. And I thought maybe CPR would work. So Forrest was talking to the 911 operator as I was doing CPR. And I remember thinking, like as I was giving chest thrusts to Burke, I said, I can't wait to tell you about this because I'm so scared, you know? Couldn't wait to be done with it so I could tell him about it. It didn't register that was it and that there wasn't going to be another conversation.
Rory O'Brien doesn't know who shot her brother, but the eyewitness about to be interviewed by Ken Sylvia believes he does.
By the time I got to speak to him, I mean, he'd already been spoken to several times throughout the day, and he's very self-assured, and this is what he saw, and this is how it happened. He tells me that as he's crossing, all of a sudden he looks up, and he sees this guy raise his hand up, and he hears a pop, and the other guy falls.
But when he's walking up the block, does he see them fighting or something?
No, he doesn't. He tells me that they're talking, or he sees that these two guys are apparently talking. Right. I mean, obviously, if they were fighting or wrestling or yelling at each other, he would have said so. But
sometimes you have to speak to them maybe several times just to understand, did they really see what they're saying they saw, and are they accurate? So you got to figure there is an argument before our witness comes upon the scene. They didn't just pull out a gun and shoot him.
You know what would be an interesting interview would be the cab driver who drove him.
Exactly.
Forrest Blody told police that he and Burke stopped at an ATM on their way home to get money to pay for the cab.
We try and find cameras. This day and age, there's cameras everywhere. That's enormous benefit to our case. This is Fleet Bank, the ATM where the victim and suspect supposedly withdrew money. So you can't even tell if there's anybody in there. The possible that could have been him. He came in by himself?
Yeah, he's by himself.
No, that was him then.
The bank's tape shows Blody withdrawing money.
What kind of hat is that?
And wearing a hat like the one described by the witness.
That puts him with the hat on.
This witness describes this guy. So as far as a witness, this is the type of guy you want on a homicide. This is the type of guy you want to be there. And certainly he's willing to go to court, willing to testify. So, you know, everybody was very ecstatic about this guy. But he got it wrong.
Telling some like crazy story about being robbed.
So this guy's pointing a gun at him and he's going to kick his.
And then the eyewitness walks up and says, "Wait a minute, I hear the story he's telling you. He's not. He's lying. I saw the whole thing."
Well, he's not going off his story, but his story certainly started getting a few holes in it.
It is now 8 hours since Burke O'Brien was shot to death after a night out partying with his sister and friends.
Does he tell the story that he's the victim of that we just got robbed?
What is he saying? Where did he go?
Based on the account of a single eyewitness, police believe the shooter may be the victim's college friend, Forrest Blody, who has not yet been arrested or even told he's a suspect.
You're holding something back. Okay, I don't think I'm holding that on you, but I'm not.
Blody and the others have been brought to the precinct for questioning.
Right now we have 4 people here, 2 males, 2 females. We have our possible suspect, his roommate, the victim's sister, and her friend.
It's get really confusing, you know, sitting in this room being questioned, you know, waiting for long periods of time before they would come back. You know, they'd leave for a good hour and a half and then come back, maybe talk to me for 20 minutes, leave for a good hour and a half. I just had no idea what hit me. It was hard.
Now you're talking to the sister. Little things are going to be key, you know, because what we're thinking happens is when he goes in, they all go out, takes his hat off,
Not unless when he comes into the building, he's already had his hat off with the gun in it.
They had told me some things about Forrest, you know, about having a gun and about, you know, that basically by the end of the day of that interrogation for me, which was about 3 o'clock when I left, they were pretty sure, you know, and so I believed them.
As for the motive, why Forrest Blody would shoot Burke O'Brien, police think they might have been arguing over a young woman in the group.
Be a little annoyed that now this guy's taking his girl. Or he might have said, "Oh man, I'm going to go back with her. Oh yeah, she was a good judge." And this guy might, hey man, don't be starting that. So.
And their kids.
Back at the crime scene, detectives canvass residents, hoping to find someone who either saw Forrest Blody shoot his friend or can confirm his claim that robbers fired the fatal shot.
Where this homicide occurred is right by the borderline of Chinatown.
A neighborhood in which police have to struggle to make themselves understood.
Most immigrants that you run into in New York are 2nd, 3rd generation. You know, they've lived here for a long time. But a lot of the Asians, more than half, probably closer to 75%, are from China.
Cantonese?
Okay, we have somebody to speak to.
What apartment do you live in? What apartment do you live in?
She doesn't want to give it information.
Well, then somebody's going to keep coming back, knocking on the door until we got your name.
Unable to find any fresh witnesses, detectives are left with only 2 ways to strengthen their case against Forrest Blody.
We're going to need a confession. Or if we find a gun in the apartment, that's just as good as a confession. This gun is a big question now. See if we can see where it is. We're trying to find out where it is. Going back to the scene to check this in. But based on what everybody told us, he probably got rid of this gun before we ran into the apartment. Tell you, from right here, you can throw it up there. You know, you have to have a pretty good arm. But there's nobody out here right after the shooting. Oh, well, no, he leaves to call 911.
But this is locked, right?
Safe to say he didn't make it up here.
We're going up the fire escape. This is the back of the building. All the windows on the first floor, they're not like regular, you know, burglar gates. They look like they're on from the outside, with the grids on it. I'm thinking, you know, this green thing here, the top of that awning there, top of this awning. Obviously, they'd like to find a weapon in every case, but unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way.
Sergeant Dietz calls in police emergency service officers to help search for the murder weapon.
Why are you looking over there if this is where it happened?
We look everywhere. You know that. We can't predict what cases will be on the front page or on the 6 o'clock news.
Just one guy who got shot.
Oh yeah, one got shot. The media is going to make a case big if they want to make it big. And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason why.
It started inside and then found its way outside.
Excuse me.
There's nothing up there. There's no tools, no nothing up there. Nothing up there. Not even nothing.
Right.
A lot of pigeon.
Now, detectives get what they believe may be their best and perhaps last chance to find the gun. A judge issues a warrant to search Forrest Blody's apartment.
What's his name's bedroom? Chance. If you're looking for a stolen TV set, you're not going to find it in the medicine chest. But if you're looking for a gun, that can be hidden almost anywhere.
I can't believe I just found the hat. I can't believe
That's the hat.
On it, I think.
All right, Joe, we got one hat.
Uh-oh. So if the hat's here...
He was here.
Anyone look in the toilet?
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, I bought these too. I bought Chef Tony's Miracle Knife.
Are they good?
Yeah, they look fantastic.
Are you serious?
Brother?
Because I want to buy them.
Hey, can I tell you, it's the greatest investment I've made. I worked with a guy who was a culinary, who was a chef. He's a cop now. He said, if you want to cook well, you have to do good knife wear.
Right.
His knives cost like $1,000. I'm watching Chef Tony one night, 3 a.m. with the load on. I buy Chef Tony's knives.
Well, you saying they're good for real?
Best.
Because I was thinking about buying
The best.
They do find a gun,
Shock the out of me.
but it's only a toy.
The girl might not feel. I mean, the girl might
We don't think he would have run too far. He didn't have enough time to run 2 blocks away and put it in a garbage can or a dumpster. We got an eyewitness that says this guy did it, so that's clear cut. But the gun, it doesn't look as clear cut. You got rid of it somehow.
13 hours after the shooting, Forrest Blody still has not been told that he's the prime suspect. Police know that soon they will have to either arrest him or let him go.
But the DA won't be videotaping until we could get another shot here. Gonna introduce the hat and all this other stuff and see if...
Where was the hat found? Was it in the apartment?
In the apartment,
right.
They decide it's time to press for a confession. Ken Sylvia tries a tactic that's worked many times before.
I could twist it and turn it and move it around, and I can come from a whole different angle. But
He tells Forrest Blody that Burke O'Brien survived the shooting and is in the hospital recovering.
So now he thinks no matter what I tell this detective, the person who's in the hospital is going to recover, and he's going to come out and he's going to tell the detective exactly what happened, and it's going to be completely opposite of what I'm saying. Because I got him believing that we can talk to his friend, and whatever he's telling us, his friend is going to be able to either corroborate or blow it out of the water.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, talk to my friend. He goes, you know what? He goes, I hope you get to talk to him tonight because I want to go home.
Yeah,
once he tells you what happened, then I told him, well, what if he doesn't pull through? And all we have is your story and his witness's story. Where does that leave you?
What
does he say? And he says, well, I know it looks up for me. He says, but this is my story. This is what happened. He goes, because I can't tell you anything different because nothing else different happened. This is what happened. He is 110% sticking to his story. He's adamant about it.
With no confession and no gun, the case against Forrest Blody depends entirely on the credibility of the single eyewitness.
Manufacture this whole thing about a robbery. It didn't occur. We have an independent witness. There's only 2 people on the street.
To make sure the witness could see what he claims to have seen, police returned to the crime scene after dark.
Yeah, you can see 2 guys there.
Look how bright it is.
I go, pow!
It's the brightest spot on the block. I gotta say, you can't see faces. From here.
So there are no loose ends. They decide to review the eyewitness's 911 call to make sure it's consistent with what he told detectives.
How you doing? I think somebody just got shot on Orchard and Grand.
What is that, Orchard Street?
Yes, in Grand Street.
How do you know?
Actually, I'm walking on the block and I heard it.
You heard it?
But as I got to the corner, I see the man laying on the ground.
Okay, how many shots did you hear?
Only heard one.
There was a male on the ground?
Yeah, the man laying on the ground. I can't see somebody.
Well, is he still breathing?
I don't know. I'm actually at the phone booth.
So you don't know him? Do you know
No, I was
wakes
walking
him?
on the block and I heard it. And then when I got to the corner, I actually seen what was going on.
All right, and that's the Orchard and Grand Street.
Actually see what was going on, so maybe he didn't see it.
We're on our way to Orchard and Grand Street in Manhattan. We'll be there as soon as possible.
Then I saw what was going on. So he says he saw guys as he's walking up in the distance. And he was attracted to them only because they're the only 2 guys on the block. But that's not what he says there. So, which is the truth?
Well, it sounds like he hears the shot,
and then there's some time has elapsed, and then he sees the guy.
But he's already on Orchard Street. The part that bothers me is he never says of this.
It's a disastrous development in their case against Forrest Blody.
If he didn't see the actual shooting, witnesses, they believe what they saw. In their mind, they saw a guy with a red jacket. And in reality, it might have been a blue jacket. But you can't go in thinking that they're wrong.
When we listen to the 9/11 tape, what he's telling the 9/11 operator, which is just probably less than a minute after this thing happened, is he didn't see it happen, but he hears a shot. So now you have a great witness who, by his own phone conversation with 9/11, sort of disputes what he says he saw. And so now you're left with basically no witness.
I'm not 100% convinced either way. Yeah. But it's just that, like, the part that bothers me about this guy doing it, where'd that gun go?
While detectives debate the 911 call, Blody gives a final videotaped statement to the DA.
From now...
How do we do? Why are you smiling?
He's done in it? He's done in it? Yeah, the video's done.
And his story remains the same.
He hasn't flinched one way or the other. The story has been the same since I first spoke to him at 8 o'clock this morning.
He still claims that Burke was shot while the two of them were being robbed.
Straightforward, he looks you in the eye.
Does he ask how his friend is?
Does he know he's dead?
No. Yes, now he does. He knows his friend is dead.
Any change in reaction on
Take that. But he got upset. He was almost to tears. I mean, we have a video. Nothing's changed. Nothing's varied. I think if we sat here with him for another 2 days, we'd have the same situation.
9 hours overtime in a raid.
With the discrepancies in the eyewitness's account, the case against Forrest Blody now seems to be on shaky ground. Nevertheless, the DA assigned to the case makes a surprising and highly controversial recommendation. Forrest Blody is to be arrested and charged with murder.
Put this in this way, yeah. Just till we get downstairs and they'll come up so I can print it. Then we'll come back. Every single arrest I've made throughout my career, I always felt 100% confident that the person I was arresting was the right person. If the case eventually couldn't be proved in court and the DA just dismissed everything eventually, I knew that I had the right person. But I didn't feel that way with Forrest. I didn't feel that way.
Turn to the side.
Put your hair behind you.
For me, like, the motive part was so far-fetched. The notion that motivation was about jealousy, you know, that motivation was not something that I was gonna buy. They're absolutely barking up the wrong tree.
Relax your hands, relax. Here you have a guy, he's 24 years old, he's got a college education, he's just basically, he's, you know, out of school only about a year or so. He's really kind of on, you know, forging his way in the world. And for this type of charge, if this thing ever goes to a trial and he's convicted, and it's not him, then his entire life, you know, is gone.
Now that it's Monday morning, it's not the weekend, now there's some questions.
Where does this guy get the gun?
What the hell could they fight about? Unless they're fighting the whole time in the cab.
I'm not worried about where the gun went.
At the 7th Precinct, detectives are uneasy about the decision to arrest Forrest Blody for the murder of his friend, Burke O'Brien.
I kind of agree with you.
My question is, how did this guy have this gun with him all night long?
And then he was dancing with like a short t-shirt on. You know, it would have been visible, it would have fallen out.
Question gets asked, where's the gun?
It's a large gun.
The only thing that is opposite Forrest's story is this witness. And I would like something a little bit more independent than that.
But it's my feeling, it's only an opinion, and everybody
that's what it's all
got
about.
their own. Yeah. Just because we haven't figured out where that gun is doesn't satisfy me that it didn't happen.
Well, that's where
we just haven't figured it out or found it.
When we searched,
Could we have missed it? Yeah.
They could have got away.
But
now
we don't have that answer.
I think they were getting robbed.
Well,
I think so too.
But if robbers did kill Burke O'Brien, it's little comfort to Forrest Blody, who's been moved to the city jail where he's waiting to be arraigned for murder. Meanwhile, the city's newspapers devour the story of two young men from affluent families engulfed by tragedy.
it's his New York dream shattered by slaying.
The victim.
His sister was administering CPR to him throughout the story, you know, it's tough. Jesus, man.
We're told
Brian, who grew up in an affluent Chicago suburb, will be remembered by relatives. I tell you, they were on top of this story, huh?
Hangs it on there. Get out of here.
Wow, it's just the beginning.
Okay.
This kid was a worldly dude. He graduated college, went to Ecuador, taught English, lived in Australia. You know, he was just hanging, you know, enjoying himself. He came to New York to put his footprint on it, and someone shot him.
If Burke O'Brien happened to be a drug dealer or some homeless guy that got killed, it wouldn't have gotten anywhere near the attention it's gotten. Sells papers, that's exactly what they look for. Grieving family.
A few blocks away, Burke O'Brien's parents have arrived from Chicago to claim their son's body.
Right, but I also don't want to get your hopes up.
In his first conversation with the family, Detective Sylvia can't hide his doubts about the case, that Burke's real killer may still be at large.
And hopefully, you know, we will find everyone that's responsible here and make sure that you know, they're brought to justice as severe as possible. The conversation that I had with his father for the first time, he called me, and it was completely unexpected. So I wasn't prepared to speak to somebody who lost their son, and his father was still, you know, a grieving father. Okay. I want to try to prepare you for the identification process. It's not like it's in the movies. You're not going to be walking into a, you know, a large refrigeration room and they're going to open up a steel drawer and, you know, pull back a sheet. You're just going to walk in, you're going to be inside an office, and they're going to show you a Polaroid photograph. Okay, and it's just of his face, and that's how you make the identification. Okay. Mr. O'Brien, and again, you know, you have my sympathy and my condolences. I'm sorry we have to, you know, meet each other this way, but hopefully, you know, when all is said and done, you know, you'll have some closure at the end of all of this. You know, we're still continuing to work on it, okay? All right, well, thank you, and, okay, thanks. Bye, bye.
My son was murdered. My daughter Rory called me from the hospital and said, "Dad, Burke is dead. We're lost. I'm not okay. I'm in shock. We don't know how we'll go on without him."
Just thinking of him having to be looking in the eyes of his killer is pretty harsh too. They're gonna find him. They have assured us they won't stop until they do find him. And so I hope that killer always sleeps with his eye open.
From the way Forrest describes his friend getting shot by this unknown perp.
Police received the final autopsy report, which seems to support Blody's version of events.
He describes the perp sort of like on a TV style, the way, you know, like the way on TV they hold these guns kind of, right, like they kind of hold the gun sideways, cocked sideways. He held it up, but the wrist was bent where the gun was pointing sort of down on an angle. The trajectory of the bullet through the body sort of supports that statement. It goes into the top of the left lung, travels, goes through the pulmonary artery, travels some more, and then goes through the aorta. He's gone. Before he hit the ground? Yeah. With the recovery of the shell casing, ballistics will do their testing on it, and if any bullets or any shell casings have already been found anywhere in the city, they can match it up. So they can say this shell casing matches a shell casing that was found in Brooklyn, or in the Bronx, or Manhattan North. And that pretty much puts us on the path of a robber. If we find a match ballistically, then you know, that'll make me feel 100 times better, because I know that some guy who didn't do this is not in jail, you know, like, and we need to concentrate on the person who did.
And it seems that it's not just the police who doubt Blody's guilt. At the DA's office, there are fears that the case may be too weak to prosecute.
The evidence we need to lock somebody up is a lot less than what they need for a conviction.
Abruptly, the DA decides Forrest Blody should be released.
DP'd means declined prosecution, which means that right now the district attorney feels that there's certainly enough for an arrest, and an arrest was made, but there's just not enough evidence to continue with a prosecution of the case. He's supposed to fax me over a copy of the DP, but it hasn't come over yet. But the DA says it's DP'd.
Basically to give himself more time?
Pretty much. Okay. Right.
The case is quickly becoming a public embarrassment for the DA and for the NYPD. Detectives return to the crime scene to canvass one more time for fresh witnesses.
Can we get your name? Are you Forrest? No. Mr. Hill?
Who you are?
Yeah, with 7 Precinct Detective Squad.
Thank you.
I had a feeling this place was going to be a zoo.
Is there anything you can tell us about the investigation?
Yeah, it's the police. Could you please open?
I'm kind of taking a bath right now.
That's great.
Who is it?
Yeah, it's the police. Could you please open? Just give us a little room if you don't mind. Please. Thank you.
Hi, hate to bother you guys. I'm sure. Has anybody come to speak to you yet?
No.
Okay.
Even though you're the police and you're investigating a crime, you can't just walk into people's homes and say, I'm the authority. You don't just barge into people's homes and speak to them. So you want to put everybody at ease and you want to kind of, you know, respect them. You look for respect in return, and people appreciate that. It goes a long way.
Okay, so you didn't see nothing, you didn't hear nothing, that thing? Okay.
Anything down here?
That's not a crazy question. You ever use psychics to help you? Not personally, I haven't.
All of a sudden, this guy appears in the hallway who claimed to has some kind of a clairvoyance.
And what kind of ability do you have? Well, if you could bring me this person's clothing or a piece of skin, I might be able to help you. I feel things, so I'm very sensitive to things when I touch. And I mean, do you get a vision? Do you get just a sense of something? What can you tell from the sense of touch? Well, I can't explain my abilities completely, but you've seen Sylvia Brown too. So I have some ability like hers. And have you used it in the past? Yeah, I get the inner voice thing.
I kept my distance a little bit because he got me a little nervous. But even this guy may be a little bit off center, but he may actually have something that might be helpful. But of course, we didn't. And so, thank you very much. And at least you know who you're dealing with.
We have your information, right?
And that's the way this whole entire case has been. We've done everything almost as physically possible with this case and continually come up empty. And this frustration is killing me.
Friends and family converge on Chicago to attend memorial services for Burke O'Brien.
I would love to call up Burke's father and his sister and his mother and say, we got the guys. They're arrested. For me personally, it would be a tremendous relief if this was an arrest that was made.
Seven Squad Detective Sylvia, can I help you?
You what? You say it was a group. Now, how close were you to this group?
Just when the case appears to be stalled, a stunning development. A woman calls the precinct and says she too witnessed what happened in the street that night.
How many people do you think? You say right now, so when you ran northbound?
George, you need this.
All right, is there any way I can come to your job and speak to you? Or we can just come and pick you in front of your building and just drive you. All right, she's a civil attorney. She needs to wrap things up in her office right now, but she'll come out of the building and walk to the northwest corner of 38 and Park.
It's more information that puts you into a better light of knowing exactly who did the crime. And that's what we're here for, to find out exactly who did the crime. We don't ever want to put an innocent person in jail. So it's better off that we have a situation like this where somebody's coming forward and offering more information.
Or we had been out together, so we were both. Yeah, she had just gotten home.
When this other witness came forward finally and spoke to us, I was relieved because the witness tells us pretty much everything that Forrest tells us.
She's on the west side of the street, which is the side of the street when all this occurred. She's just walking, and she's drunk. She said she's drunk. She admits that. Now she takes only a couple more steps, and she realizes there's a group of people in front of her. Two white guys on the stoop that are facing the street, and anywhere from 2 to 3 other guys on the sidewalk facing the building. As soon as at the very second she notices them, she sees one of the guys that's on the sidewalk pull a gun and point it at one of the guys on the stoop. At that point, she just goes.
The new eyewitness confirms Forrest Blody's original story that he and Burke were robbed at gunpoint by several individuals of unknown race.
Now, at least now I think we're headed in the right direction and we can focus our energies in the correct way. rather than to try to chase two separate things going in two different directions. Now we have something leaning more towards one side that it could be a lot more helpful.
But valuable time has been wasted focusing on Forrest Blody as the primary suspect.
With a homicide, time is very critical. You have to gather as much information as you can in like a 48-hour period to make it as accurate as possible.
Although Forrest Blody's status has changed from suspect to witness, he's now refusing to cooperate with police. As winter turns to spring, Forrest Blody, acting on his lawyer's advice, refuses to look at police mugshots or even help them make a sketch of Burke O'Brien's killer.
When you look at it, he's a college friend of his. He's traumatized just as much as everybody else. But instead of going home and being able to talk to his friends and kind of unloading this whole big burden of what he just observed, and he was right there, he was only feet away from this bullet, he spends that night in jail.
I think that anybody in my situation would be angry. Their job is to uphold what's right and to protect you. And all of a sudden it changes to, attacking me basically. Just stringing me along on, the strangest 14, 18 hours of my life. And you lose trust and you lose faith in that.
Did he have a rough day? Yeah. Who had a rough day? Burke had a rough day. Give me a break. Enough. A couple weeks or so, get over it. I'm sick of it.
Burke O'Brien's father and one of his sisters have come to New York to send a message that the family wants the killer caught. They're upset that Blody refuses to cooperate with police.
You can imagine the emotional trauma in our family with this hanging about having this guy acting this way. The behavior is despicable.
We came back to New York to personally talk with the police who we've been on the phone with for a lot, so it's important to get more face-to-face contact, I think, for both sides, and get them to know us a little more.
That you know of, was there any exchange?
At police headquarters, Burke's father announces a $30,000 reward for information leading to the capture of his son's killer.
The police department, in conjunction with the family, are offering a $30,000 reward.
The people in Manhattan are in this with me. They're running around, these guys are running around their neighborhood. We have a different loss, a different pain, but they're in danger.
Like I said, I'm bothered by the Forrest thing, but other than that,
O'Brien hopes to use the press to shame Forrest Blody into cooperating with police.
This is a good time to do it.
Yeah, and
we've gotten to the point where his primary witness, Forrest Blody, we needed to bring the press in to be more aggressive and give some exposure to the case.
O'Brien knows Blody is the only witness who will recognize the face of the man who murdered his son.
If he cooperates fully, then the suspicions we have will be unfounded.
Just one day after O'Brien complains about Blody in the newspapers, Blody resumes contact with detectives and helps a police artist make this sketch of Burke's killer.
I was just glad to get him in here, to talk to him. It was a free exchange of information, and he really put in 110%. And in the meantime, if there's a photograph that pops up through the investigation that I need him to look at right away, he said to give him a call, and he'd look at just one photograph if I have only just one to look at.
Burke stays in the cab. Forrest goes in.
Before going home to Chicago, the O'Briens visit the crime scene where Ken Sylvia tells them what he believes happened that night.
Burke gets out, and then they just start walking straight down to the step. This guy is standing here with the gun, the other guy is standing over there, and then as the conversation unfolds, Burke gets shot.
What's this guy saying? Or who's
Burke is telling him, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. Give my friend back his money. You don't want to do this. And the guy with the gun is telling him back, no, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. And then takes like a step forward or moves forward, and then that's when this guy reaches up with the gun and shoots him.
And then they split.
And then they both run straight down that way.
I think we'll find them. I'm hopeful, and I don't think that hope is founded on wishful thinking. I think that hope is founded on the realities of what's going on and the people who are working the case.
I don't know what direction they ran. He just knows that they ran in that direction, and then he immediately, went into the apartment.
I view this as a partial closure for us. This is a piece of our healing process. It's important to us. Does it bring Burke back? No, obviously not.
Final closure for the O'Briens will only come when Burke's killer is caught. but so far, police have not had a single solid lead.
Well, I already put up probably over 100 of these and didn't get any calls yet. So, we're either not putting them in the right spot or nobody has any information.
I think eventually this person will be caught. And for me, it's always going to be with me, just like it is with the guy that shot him. This case is always going to be with him, and it's always going to be with me. That's one thing that this person and I have in common. He's out there wondering where I am, and I'm out there wondering where he is.
It's been 18 months since Burke O'Brien was gunned down on a city street. Police say they still have no suspects and no leads.